President Bush heading to Los Angeles for a first-hand look at the riot devastation and to search for solutions. That as family members and friends mourn the riot victims.
This is CNN's Prime News, taking the time to examine world events, issues, and newsmakers, with Bernard Shaw in Washington and Susan Rook in Atlanta.
Thanks for joining us. President Bush at this hour is flying to Los Angeles, where anger and frustration last week exploded into some of the worst rioting in United States history. The root causes of those riots go beyond mere anger at a jury's verdict. They reflect the poverty and economic anemia so common in America's inner cities. As our CNN senior White House correspondent Charles Bierbauer, Mr. Bush wants to find a new approach to the problem.
President Bush says the National Guard and other troops sent to Los Angeles could probably leave soon, now that some civil tranquility has returned to the city. But the president says he is heading to Los Angeles with the restoration of law among his prime objectives.
American citizens should not be asked to put up with wanton looting and pillaging.
Los Angeles' new police chief, who met with the Congressional Black Caucus here, suggests law and order need another dimension.
In general, we have to get the community back involved with the police department. The few bridges that we had, most of those were burnt over the past month.
President Bush also places priority on short-term assistance for the cleanup and long-term means of rebuilding and harmonizing the country.
I will go forward with ideas that have not been tried, emphasizing that it is far more important to give people a piece of the action than it is to have the federal government simply dump largesse on them.
The Bush administration has been dumping all week on the Great Society programs of Lyndon Johnson, which it says failed the inner cities.
But I say I don't want to assign blame. I don't. And if I said a year ago that these programs weren't working, perhaps I have been vindicated.
Now the president acknowledges the Reagan-Bush programs, too, may have come up short. Bush's own ideas so far have focused on economic enterprise zones with tax incentives to create investment and jobs in inner cities. Democrats are pushing a 5-year, $1.8 billion enterprise zone bill of their own.
Zero capital gains on investment in tangible assets. That means the property or the equipment that you have. A $50,000 tax deduction up to a maximum of $250,000 for any stock you purchase. And then a 5% refundable tax credit for people who work there. So I think you've got some pretty sweet incentives.
Senator Edward Kennedy went a step farther, proposing a $5 billion program to solve urban ills.
This is not a lot of money. It is 0.5% of the total federal budget. It is a small, essential down payment on the future of America.
President Bush suggests there may be momentum for urban legislation in the wake of Los Angeles riots. President Bush says he heads west with optimism for 2 days of assessment and will present his recommendations sometime after his return to Washington Friday. Charles Bierbauer, CNN, the White House.
It is a week now after the riots first exploded in Los Angeles. The violence is still touching the hearts, the minds, and the lives of many residents. In LA's Koreatown, friends and family gathered today for the funeral of 18-year-old Edward Lee. Lee died last Thursday after getting caught in the crossfire between looters and Koreans protecting their stores. Many residents complain police were slow to respond to the violence. 2 LA officers say they share that anger and the frustration.
Every policeman that I've talked to who works here or anywhere else in the city of Los Angeles was willing to go in to do something about that. For some reason, the supervisor who was in charge would not let them do it.
There were ways that we could have gone in to rescue any downed victim at all, and gotten in and gotten out very quickly. And if push came to shove and the team that went in got trapped, we have a job to do. Our job is to help the people that need the help. And personally, it hurt me to see that wasn't being done. It's very frustrating.
And one man finds himself on both sides of the LA law. Vernon Broussard was arrested during the rioting last Wednesday when police found a revolver in his pocket and the makings of Molotov cocktails in his car. The next night, he was back on the streets, this time as a National Guardsman on riot duty. Broussard says he is innocent of the felony charges.
Los Angeles courts are swamped with cases stemming from last week's riot. The system has become so bloated that the state of California has passed a special law extending the time allowed before arraignments. Patty Panicia has details.
Teresa Fuentes is waiting, hoping the Los Angeles court system can find her mother, who she believes was arrested during the riots.
If she's not here, what we're going to do? You know, my dad wants to get her out, but we don't know where she's at.
According to the law, all those taken into custody should have been arraigned by Tuesday midnight. Otherwise, they would go free. So, at the state capitol, lawmakers, both liberal and conservative, came together to pass emergency legislation. The deadline for all felony charges was extended for 7 days.
The sheriff who runs the jail was required to release all of these people that had not been arraigned at midnight. And there was no way to handle this other than to change the law.
During the riots, police dropped off suspects at the jails and then immediately returned to the streets. The paperwork had to wait until now.
The stress and the confusion of the paperwork not matching up with the custodies and the sheer workload has really stretched our resources.
Courts are staying open until midnight and throughout the weekends, until the more than 13,000 people can be arraigned.
Your bail is $20,000. Probable cause was found May 3rd.
Most are charged with looting, arson, or assault.
We have bailiffs who've been on duty continuously for 48-hour periods. Court staff personnel have been working 12, 15 hours a day.
Once the arraignments are finished, the courts will be faced with preliminary hearings and trials.
The jam will take 4 to 6 months to wind its way through the court system. The bottleneck will ultimately reach the jails and prisons, where overcrowding is already a serious problem.
As for Teresa Fuentes, even though her mother could be facing a sentence, it will be a relief just to know where she is. Patty Panicia for CNN, Los Angeles.
With an eye on Los Angeles, a Dade County judge has moved the retrial of a Miami police officer to Tallahassee. William Lozano is charged in the 1989 deaths of 2 black men. Riots broke out in a predominantly black section of Miami after that shooting. Lozano's earlier conviction was overturned when an appeals court ruled the jury feared acquitting him would spur more violence.
In Mobile, Alabama, shootings by police sparked clashes between officers and residents of a mostly black housing project. The incident began last night when police responded to a report of a gunman at a nightclub. Officers shot and killed the gunman when he turned toward them. A stray police bullet hit and wounded a woman at the scene. Rumors spread that police killed both the woman and the gunman. And that triggered the melee. At least 20 people were arrested. An officer was wounded.
When we return to Prime News, at a tiny college in Missouri, Mikhail Gorbachev offers a much different worldview than the one seen there by Winston Churchill 46 years ago. Ukraine promises to rid its country of all nuclear weapons. Steps are underway to protect the Earth from ozone-depleting chemicals. But are the replacements really a solution? And this was the scene during a practice run at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A good thing Rick Mears was wearing his seatbelt.
When you live away from it all, you don't see much TV or get many newspapers. So when you go out for the groceries, you don't make choices based on commercials or coupons. You choose based on facts. And of the 50 leading cereals, you'll find only one that's low in sugar and a good source of fiber and made from whole grain oats, Cheerios. Life isn't this simple everywhere, but choosing a cereal can be. Choose smart. Choose Cheerios.
The Movado Museum Watch. The dial design chosen by the Museum of Modern Art for their permanent collection. The Black Sapphire Museum Watch. A futuristic interpretation from Movado.
Thanks to an incredible new development at Pip Printing, you can now get these 4-color jobs for surprisingly few of these 1-color jobs. Full process color. One more reason Pip Printing's the biggest business printer in the world.
Put a luggage cart in a suitcase and what do you get? Samsonite's Piggyback. It's particularly handy on long trips like the one from your car to the ticket counter.
Las Vegas Magic. Excalibur Hotel Casino's second birthday celebration. All rooms $35 up to 4 persons, Sunday through Thursday this June. Non-stop entertainment. For reservations, phone 1-800-937-7777. Excalibur. Call now and join the birthday celebration.
Tonight, former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger shares his unique outlook on a turbulent world. A full hour with our foremost foreign policy maven. Tonight on Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Ukrainian President Leonid Kravchuk today promised that his country will not become a nuclear power and will eliminate all its nuclear weapons. CNN's Ralph Begleiter reports that's just what President Bush was hoping to hear.
Ukraine's new president entered the bastion of Western military power, the Pentagon, promising to destroy all Ukraine's nuclear weapons and rely on international support for its future security. Later at the White House, President Bush offered words of reassurance to Russia's biggest neighbor.
Ukraine's future security is important for the United States and for stability in Europe.
Leonid Kravchuk is already moving to get rid of Ukraine's battlefield nuclear weapons by this summer. But U.S. officials are afraid Ukraine might remain the world's third largest nuclear power by keeping some 170 long-range missiles with more than 1,200 nuclear warheads.
Ukraine is a large European country with a population of 53 million with a powerful nuclear arsenal.
But U.S. officials say a letter signed by Kravchuk pledges Ukraine will become a non-nuclear nation and will abide by all the terms of the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, including inspections in Ukraine territory.
So this one is in pretty good shape.
The only condition is that Russia and the other nuclear former Soviet republics, Belarus and Kazakhstan, must agree. U.S. officials admit it's hard getting everybody under the tent at the same time. They say Kazakhstan President Nazarbayev's stand on giving up his nuclear weapons is ambiguous. U.S. Secretary of State James Baker hopes to nail down a 5-way agreement, which would be attached to the START Treaty signed last year with the Soviet Union. The Bush administration hopes that new agreement will be acceptable to the U.S. Senate, which must ratify the treaty before nuclear cuts can actually begin. Ralph Begleiter, CNN at the State Department.
There was much more than a touch of irony in former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev's visit to tiny Westminster College in Missouri today. It was there 46 years ago that Winston Churchill warned of an impending East-West confrontation, Churchill terming it the Iron Curtain, and many later saw it as the symbolic start of the Cold War, crumbling only with the breakup of the Soviet Union. Today, Gorbachev laid the foundations for his vision of a new world order, one based on greater global cooperation.
On today's agenda is not just a union of democratic states, but also a democratically organized world community. Thus, we live today in a watershed era. One epoch has ended, and a second is commencing. No one yet knows how concrete it will be. No one. Having long been Orthodox Marxists, we were sure that we knew. But life, once again, has refuted those who claim to be know-it-alls and messiahs.
Gorbachev also called for a greater role for the United Nations, tighter restrictions on nuclear weapons, and economic equality for all. His speech is part of a United States tour, his first in this country, since he left office.
While Gorbachev spoke of defining moments in history and Ukrainian President Kravchuk made assurances about nuclear weapons, lawmakers on Capitol Hill pondered another matter. In this case, the talk centered more on ABCs than on ICBMs. CNN's David French explains.
Not so long ago, you could get this reaction from American children just by saying, "The Russians are coming, the Russians are coming." Now the old Soviet Union is gone, and its last leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, stands where Winston Churchill defined the descending Iron Curtain so eloquently years ago. This as Ukrainian President Leonid Kravchuk meets with President Bush about reducing nuclear arms. At a Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee hearing, Chairman Joseph Biden discusses a potent weapon of another kind with Russian officials.
Amazing, beautiful creatures dancing.
Big Bird and his friends and the messages they carry are one of the most widely sought after and certainly one of the most constructive of American cultural exports.
Russia and other former Soviet republics want a Sesame Street of their own. Biden wants it to be an American gift. The Children's Television Workshop has exported the concept to 80 countries already. Turkey, Portugal, and Norway are the most recent adaptations. But can a Russian Big Bird be really big enough to solve the problems there? Elena Lenskaya remembers the old system. At age 4, kids had to learn a poem about Lenin.
Brick upon brick and tile upon tile, Lenin is dead, but his cause will never die. Hear the music playing, hear the drums go boom, Lenin's being carried to his sacred tomb. That's something we were learning in the kindergarten.
Big Bird, cooperatively recreated in a Russian mold, could do much to change that. More children watch the Sesame Street concept around the world than at home in the U.S. Everywhere children watch, their teachers report improved skills and attitudes.
Our system needs new openness and integration into the global world outside. And I think your system can also benefit from more cooperation. But in order to communicate, kids have to share something. Let them share not Terminator, not Rambo, which is now the case, but Sesame Street.
Das Svidanya, Big Bird. You seem to need another visa. David French, CNN, Washington.
Still ahead on Prime News, the latest on the economy. The housing market is showing signs of improvement, but that's just part of the bigger picture. Stay tuned.
There's change in the air. Big change. Fares with savings up to 50% in the U.S. United Airlines announces fare fares for business travelers, first-class flyers, and vacationers, too. Now when you fly, you'll find dramatic savings and exchangeable, more flexible tickets. It's our economic plan to lift the nation. From the airline that's uniting the world. United. Come fly the friendly skies.
Through darkness they passed, through seas unknown and dangers untold. Sustained by faith, Columbus and crew sailed bravely to a new world. Now, on the 500th anniversary of the discovery of America, in accordance with an act of Congress, the United States Christopher Columbus Quincentenary Jubilee Commission has authorized the official Christopher Columbus Commemorative Medallion. The front portrays the heroic image of Columbus from an original sculpture by Frederick Bartholdi. The reverse is an original design of Columbus's 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. This precious golden commemorative has been struck by the American Founders Mint with the official 500th anniversary insignia and is accompanied by a signed certificate of registration. The official Christopher Columbus commemorative is available at the issue price of $10 each plus $2 postage. There's a limit of 3 per household. Call now to order.
Tonight, on Sports Tonight, a 4-time and defending Indy 500 champion is injured in a horrifying crash at the Brickyard. We'll have details. Plus, the Pirates and Braves lock horns again in an NLCS rematch. It's all at 11 p.m. Eastern Time.
The United States economic recovery is picking up momentum. The Federal Reserve's latest Beige Book report says manufacturing, home construction, and retail sales show signs of new strength. One caution, the recovery's pace lags in the Northeast and on the West Coast. And sales of existing homes climbed in the first quarter of 1992, up 11.3% over the same period last year. But the National Association of Realtors says sales slowed in March as interest rates began to climb.
Owners of independent service stations believe Americans are taking a hosing at the gas pump. Today, representatives of independent service station owners told Congress they want to make it illegal for major oil companies to charge independent marketers more than they charge company-owned outlets. Since 1985, the number of independently owned service stations has dropped 32%.
The Senate has approved a measure to cut this year's federal budget by more than $8 billion. By a 61-38 vote, the Senate trimmed the B-2 bomber and Strategic Defense Initiative programs. The Seawolf submarine program was spared in the cutbacks. President Bush is threatening to veto the bill, but both Republicans and Democrats complain of the politics surrounding the bill.
If he vetoes this balanced, responsible bill, his reasons will be transparent to the American people. They will cynically conclude that they're simply watching more election year politics. And sadly, they will be right.
The American people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They deserve better. It's time we sat down and figured out what reforms need to be made so that we can act rather than stalemate, which has been all too long characterized the behavior of this body.
The House is expected to vote on its own budget-cutting plan tomorrow.
Still ahead, figuring out what caused yesterday's deadly collapse of a soccer stadium stand in Corsica, and a dramatic conclusion to a prison protest in Peru. Stay tuned.
Where do you find all this? If you said the Bahamas, you're not only right, you're close. The Bahamas, the country Columbus first set foot on. For a free guide to the Bahamas, call 1-800-8-BAHAMAS or see your travel agent.
For those of you who have been reluctant to wear a hearing aid, Miracle Ear has more great news. If you have trouble hearing in noisy situations, the exciting Miracle Ear Clarifier may be your answer. The Clarifier features a special filter that automatically reduces background noise.
In a restaurant situation, it picks up the noises I want to hear, but the other noises are just moved off into the background.
If you or someone you know thinks they may be suffering from hearing loss, call Miracle Ear at this number and receive helpful information.
It really makes a lot of difference in your way of hearing and in your way of life.
Call this number. Miracle Ear will send you a booklet on better hearing, plus a coupon for a free hearing test. Call today. Learn about all the good news from Miracle Ear.
A lot of people don't even know you got it, especially the one I got, the design that I got.
Call this number. Find out if Miracle Ear can help you.
Nighttime backache? Try Momentum Muscular Backache Formula. Momentum has a maximum strength pain reliever to help relieve your backache so you can sleep.
My back feels great, and I slept like a log.
Momentum Muscular Backache Formula.
Of all denture adhesives, only one holds the strongest, and it's just taken a turn for the better. Fix-It-Int's new Easy Twist Cap. It's bigger, it's a snap to open, and it's one more reason to Fix-It-Int and forget it.
Sniper fire punctuated the frustration in Sarajevo today. Caught in the crossfire, Bosnia's president and UN representatives who are trying to put together some sort of truce. UN envoy Marat Goulding said he is skeptical the warring ethnic factions are ready yet to put down their weapons yet. And without a truce, of course, the UN will not consider sending in peacekeeping forces. The fighting has escalated since Bosnia declared its independence in February.
Flags on Corsica fly at half-mast as the Mediterranean island mourns the soccer fans who died in yesterday's disaster. Authorities have begun an investigation. They are trying to find out why a temporary grandstand collapsed. At least 10 people died, about 800 were injured. Peter Staunton reports.
There had been doubts about the safety of the vast temporary stand long before kickoff time. Workers were still racing to tighten all the bolts which held it together. There was talk of evacuating everyone, but it came to nothing. Minutes before the start, thousands of fans began stamping their feet to welcome the teams. The collapse was sudden and devastating. The whole of the back of the stand had come down. 700 fans had fallen 60 feet and were trapped in the wreckage. Survivors helped the rescue operation. It was chaotic to start with. For many, it was too late. The players, England's Trevor Stephen among them, worked frantically to open the fences to allow those left in the stand to escape.
There were thousands of people spilling onto the pitch, and there was not really a great deal of room for people to work in. Slowly but surely, the injured people who had actually fallen out of the stadium were being ferried back into the pitch area, and being laid down on the grass itself, and people were trying to care for them. Even our tracksuits, we were given our tracksuits, our towels, everything that we could get our hands on.
Bastia officials were being blamed for trying to pack too many people into a makeshift structure. Supporters said the stand had been swaying for 90 minutes before it fell. Others pointed to the flimsy nature of the supports which were holding it up. The club said they'd be suing the firm that built the stand.
Some spectators say they complained about shaking in the stands about 90 minutes before the collapse.
Peruvian troops are stepping up actions against Shining Path guerrillas. Yesterday, troops blew a hole in the roof of a Lima prison housing many of the rebels. The guerrillas have blockaded themselves inside the facility, where authorities believe they were conspiring against the government. President Alberto Fujimori last month instituted the rebel crackdown under emergency rule. Peru's 12-year guerrilla war has devastated the country's economic and social structures.
Coming up, the United Nations is putting on the finishing touches on a treaty to curb global warming, but some observers say the treaty will have little effect.
An interesting thing is happening to driving enthusiasts. They're multiplying, and that's a blessed event for the Saab 9000 Turbo, which not only does 0 to 60 faster than a BMW 535i, but has one of the roomiest interiors of any imported sedan. The Saab 9000 Turbo, the sports sedan you grow into, not out of.
There are lots of ways to replace a lost or broken remote, but the easiest is a one-for-all universal remote. Functioning as several remotes in one, it replaces your lost or broken control, then combines all your others into one single remote. Look for one-for-all universal remotes wherever electronic equipment is sold, and save yourself a little inconvenience. Play CNN Scorecard. Look for this display wherever electronics are sold.
Prime News continues, followed by Larry King Live after this local commercial break. Next on CNN.
Gentlemen, in preparing our...
Are you finding it harder and harder to get home in time to watch the evening news? Then you should know about the network that gives you news when you need it. A network made for people on the go. And because it's there all the time.
Mom, do you think this is such a good idea?
It lets you take your time.
And that's the news. Good night.
CNN Headline News. The latest news, business, and sports around the clock.
The New Yorker. It's been called the best magazine in the world, probably the best magazine that ever was. See if you agree. Call this number and get 52 weekly issues of The New Yorker for just $25.95. That's $65 off the cover price. Week after week, the quality of The New Yorker speaks for itself. So call 1-800-257-1257 for 52 weekly issues of the best magazine in the world. Yes, The New Yorker.
This is CNN.
Congress considers a bill that would make it illegal to block abortion clinics. Across the nation, an epidemic of violence. A new type of program seeks to keep young people out of harm's way. And in Somalia, A rare moment of joy as the food finally arrives. Those stories ahead, but first, the United Nations is getting close to putting the finishing touches on a global warming treaty. Environmentalists were hoping the treaty would set the stage for some big changes, but as CNN's Deborah Potter reports, that's not likely now.
As a leading producer of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuels, the United States has long opposed any specific emission limits to curb global warming. And it now appears that a climate change treaty being worked out at the United Nations will include no definite commitment to reduce those gases, a victory for the Bush administration and U.S. industry, which warned that setting targets and timetables would hurt the American economy.
It's going to cost us money. It's going to cost us jobs. It's going to take money out of people's pockets if we don't have the right kind of framework to operate in relationship to these treaties.
Diplomats say the United States made it clear that its position would not change, and the choice was either a vague treaty to be signed next month at the Earth Summit in Rio or none at all. The ultimatum didn't sit well with many European leaders who had pressed for an agreement to cut emissions to 1990 levels by the turn of the century, and it drew an immediate attack on Capitol Hill.
It is really a deep tragedy for our country and for the world that President Bush has made it clear that he will wreck the Earth Summit unless the world accepts this meaningless language. It's really a shame, because this was an opportunity to really move in the right direction.
The Bush administration concedes that its own existing policies for energy conservation and other measures would reduce greenhouse gas emissions almost as much as the Europeans want, without much hardship. But officials refuse to accept a formal agreement to achieve that goal.
It's bizarre that they won't even accept a goal or a commitment to do that, knowing that it would come essentially for free.
The treaty language is still being worked out, and sources say it could still fall apart. But it appears an agreement is within reach. It would finally put the world on record as concerned about global warming, but observers say the treaty would do little to really solve it. Deborah Potter, CNN, Washington.
Congress is considering a bill that would make it a federal crime to blockade abortion clinics. In testimony today, one woman, identified as Sylvia Doe, said anti-abortion activists trapped her in her car outside a clinic and showed her bloody baby parts. Doe says she chose to abort her pregnancy when she found out her baby's heart was not formed correctly.
After I had my baby, I held him, and it was very bittersweet. It was very sad because I knew I'd never have him. I'd never be able to watch him grow up. But I was so thankful that I did what I did, because I knew he wouldn't be tortured and kept alive in artificial means just to die anyway. And I hate what these people did to me to make this experience this much even more devastating than it could have been.
Doe is one of the women seeking abortions in Wichita last summer when anti-abortion protesters blocked clinics for 46 days. Anti-abortion advocates say preventing them from blockading clinics violates their freedom of expression.
Street violence. Is it just a matter for the police and the courts? Public health researchers say there's more to it. CNN medical correspondent Andrew Holtz continues a series of reports on violence and what's being done to help young people control their anger.
Birthday to you. Ambulance, hey, go ahead. Is he still awake and alert?
Mark Wilkins was about to go bowling when he'd heard there'd been another shooting in his Washington, D.C. neighborhood.
And I was wondering, who was it this time? Who got shot this time?
It was his sister, another victim of a drive-by shooting.
I couldn't believe that. And I was like, this violence up here is outrageous and it needs to be stopped.
Even before his sister's death, Wilkins had joined a youth task force to oppose violence. He doesn't want to lose any more childhood friends.
It's rough when you're growing up with somebody and you see this person every day. You're walking, talking, and laughing with this person. And they're dead the next day.
For young men in this neighborhood, the leading cause of death is homicide. But violence is not just a big city threat.
You might not think about it now, but if you don't think about it now, you will eventually, and you don't want to have it come the hard way.
When it starts getting dark, that's when I start heading in the house, because my mother, she don't like
like me being out.
Jean Crutcher lives more than 500 miles from Washington, D.C. He's just 13 years old, but he's already learning to deal with the threat of violence.
Down there, they be selling crack and marijuana and stuff like that.
His home is in the heart of Middle America, Dayton, Ohio. On All America's City Way, the convention center just hosted the Ohio Pork Congress. Dayton is no murder capital. Nevertheless, its children are in danger, often from what seems an unlikely source. The body count of violent death and injury reveals the curtain between friend and enemy is often thin. Nationwide, FBI statistics show most homicides involve friends or family, and arguments are linked to twice as many homicides as are robberies or drug-related crimes. The sparks of violence often seem trivial.
There is something about the inability to handle anger that we all face, without exploding and losing control.
A survey showed at this Dayton middle school, 1 of 5 students knew someone who was murdered. So researchers put violence on the health curriculum alongside sex education and nutrition.
All of these health areas have come to be accepted as a normal part of what kids learn in school. Why not violence prevention in light of the statistics?
Giving it, taking it, and working it out.
This is a class about dealing with anger.
You gotta get it together now. No, you don't hear what I'm saying, do you? No, I'm not through. Just listen to me. No. This ain't gonna work.
This program is about dealing with anger in ways that will let you get your point across or get what you want without getting in a fight.
We have 2 volunteers to do first role play. All right, Letitia and Jean.
The basic lessons are simple, but many youngsters haven't learned them.
I don't too much appreciate you coming up and calling me a punk.
Well, that's what you is. I think you a punk. You a punk.
Jean Crutcher says the class has helped.
Well, I got in trouble a whole lot more than I do now. I think I settled down more.
The program, called PACT, for Positive Adolescent Choices Training, is in its 3rd year.
We're able to significantly reduce fighting incidents to help anywhere from 3 out of 4 to 4 out of 5 children that we work with.
For teachers, that change is more than just a line on a researcher's chart.
It's astonishing because in some cases, students actually go to the classroom and they may have a disagreement with the teacher. And they readily use the skills that they've learned in the PACT program, and the teachers are really impressed with it.
But on the streets, people still follow what Mark Wilkins calls the gangster way of life.
They think that's how they're supposed to live, and no matter who dies or, who's crippled or who, has to pay for it, that's just too bad.
Deadly impulses. In our next report, Andrew Holtz, CNN Medical News.
News from Medicine is brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb Company, makers of new Excedrin IB, the headache ibuprofen.
When we asked what's a strong name in headache relief, a lot of people said
Excedrin.
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 When we asked what's a strong medicine for pain, a lot of people said
Ibuprofen. Ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen. Well, we put our heads together and came up with this solution for headache pain.
Excedrin.
Ibuprofen. Excedrin.
Ibuprofen.
Introducing Excedrin IB. Now an ibuprofen medicine from Excedrin. Ibuprofen relief for tough headaches. New Excedrin IB. The headache ibuprofen.
On CNN tomorrow, one of Rodney King's closest relatives, his aunt, takes your phone calls on morning news. Then on World Day, the vicious cycle of poverty and overpopulation. The People Bomb. All tomorrow on CNN.
To explore American history, all you need is a map of Virginia. Route 460, Appomattox. Interstate 64, Monticello. And southeast of Richmond, down the same road, there's Colonial Williamsburg, Yorktown, and Jamestown. But now, if you like your history to go back even further, take Route 702. Left at the big tree, walk about 50 feet. and listen. Call for your free Virginia Vacation Guide.
Introducing Dave's Salad Days at Wendy's.
You know, a lot of people are getting Wendy's new fresh salads to go through the pickup window. I guess they're in a hurry, and that's good, because we got a lot of salads. Our taco salad with rich and meaty chili, deluxe garden salad, and a delicious new grilled chicken salad with a breadstick, my daughter Wendy's idea. And we make them every day for people on the go.
5 salads that are fresh, fast, and ready to go.
Boy, it's amazing how much broccoli you get from one little bag of seeds.
30% of those living in southern Africa may be affected by a killer drought this summer, according to officials from the Agency for International Development. The agency estimates that during the next year, food aid needs in the region will reach more than 5 million tons. The agency says Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, and Mozambique will be hardest hit.
Thousands of people in Somalia are fleeing their homeland, which has been devastated by civil war. And relief organizations estimate 3/4 of the remaining population is threatened with famine. In the capital city of Mogadishu, a vessel arrived carrying the first food shipment in months. CNN's Brent Sadler reports.
For starving people on the edge of life, this was a day of joy. They had waited and waited for the moment to arrive. After 6 months of hardship, hunger and misery, the much-promised, long-delayed food finally reached the streets of Mogadishu. The food, just rice and beans, successfully filtered through a tortuous system of distribution. Amazingly for now, it seems to have worked. Parts of the city were being fed, district by district, family by family, hand to mouth. There was no way of telling if it was being shared out fairly or not. The small distribution points were given instructions to issue each family representative with exactly the same amounts of rice. People were expected to stand in line for hours in the blazing sun. And they were forced to wait, silently and in order, by gunmen too hasty and too eager to impose their will. Many others will collapse and fail to reach the food in time.
The rules are tough. Looters are shot on sight, and to queue jump is to risk your life and your family's ration. It's against all odds that even this much is getting through, and there's already panic that when this runs out, and that's going to be soon, there's no guarantee of any more.
By the time the rice was divided out, it added up to a pitiful amount. 5 kilos, or about 11 pounds in weight for each head of family. Hardly a feast, and they were already beginning to worry.
5 kilos is only for an hours, to cook for a large family.
It's not enough because they need another food to take. Because 5 kilo, one person is not nothing, one family. Because the family is composed at least 5 children and mother and father.
The contentment on the streets may be short-lived. Food lifts for Mogadishu and Somalia as a whole are unlikely to keep up with the amount of mouths they have to feed. A United Nations relief ship chartered by the World Food Programme brought in 5,000 tons of wheat grain, yet Somalia needs 7 times that amount each and every month. More UN boats should follow this one, but they may never be able to match the demand for food with unbroken supplies.
We are trying to avoid panic, but nevertheless, and we cannot give a full assurance because the situation, there are a lot of people, irresponsible people who got the gun.
People who most need the food are supposed to receive it first. Often, that's not the case. The capital is overcrowded with refugees who live in small cardboard huts. These camps are places of unspeakable suffering and despair. This woman signals hunger. She told me her body was slowly wasting away, that all her bones poked through her skin, that her arms were like sticks. She was begging for help. A woman just turned 46, Somalia's average life expectancy. Nearby, a mother explained how she scraped together a meal from the dirt. By walking miles, she collected a mixture of grit and rice on the road from a passing food truck. Grain by grain, she separated it out. Her family might just live a little longer. No one knows how many men, women and children have died already, buried in shallow roadside graves. The anxiety now is not so much for the dead, but the barely living. Brent Sadler, CNN, Mogadishu.
What you want is food with the taste you love.
We're gonna have 6 Big Macs.
Yeah, 6 Big Macs.
4 quarter pounds with cheese.
What you need is a break for your budget.
Where do you want to go? I only got a couple bucks.
What you deserve is to be treated the way you like to be treated.
Did you get that concert on Saturday?
No, I missed it and I really did want to go. Well, here's your favorite seat.
That's what you want. That's what you get at McDonald's today.
The music you love is part of your life. Now, there's an easy way to collect the world's most beautiful music. Announcing great composers from Time Life Music. Start with the greatest music of Mozart. More than 2 full hours of his very best works at the remarkable low price of only $9.99 for 2 compact discs or 2 double-length cassettes. Great Composers brings you the most memorable music of Bach, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Chopin, all the great masters in crisp, clear sound. Every volume features one great composer, yours to preview at no risk. Keep only the albums you want. There's no minimum to buy, and you may cancel anytime. So call now to enjoy Mozart for a 10-day pre-audition and discover music you'll enjoy for a lifetime. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-825-3800. That's 1-800-825-3800. Or send just $9.99 for 2 cassettes or 2 compact discs, plus $3.50 shipping and handling to Mozart, P.O. Box 1880, Department 2, Alexandria, Virginia.
A gloomy forecast for the Endeavour. Officials say there's only a 30% chance the weather will be good enough for the shuttle's maiden flight. The 7-day mission's goal is to rescue a communication satellite. Officials will decide tomorrow morning whether to scrub the launch. At this point, CNN is planning live coverage of the liftoff. It's scheduled for 7:06 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Now, with a look at sports, here's Nick Charles in Atlanta.
The most feared thought in auto racing became reality today for defending Indy 500 champion Rick Mears. The 4-time winner of the biggest race in the world was injured in a horrifying crash during practice at the famed Speedway today. Mears was driving a backup car and lost control, sliding and then slamming into the concrete wall with the left driver's side of the car and then careening more than 700 feet down the track. Mears is awake and alert with a minor fracture of his right foot and a sprained right wrist. But looking at the crash, it seems a miracle he's alive tonight. Mears had just completed a lap at over 213 miles an hour when the car began spewing oil that he ran over, which started that terrifying slide, and then the crash that sent hundreds of pieces of the car flying in the air and Mears helpless inside. It took safety workers several minutes to carefully remove him from the wreckage. Mears still limps noticeably from serious foot and ankle injuries he sustained in a crash 8 years ago. He's back in the hospital tonight, but at least he's alive. Well, the New York Rangers not only got even in their series against the defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins last night, but they also knocked Penguins star Mario Lemieux out of action and the rest of the series. Lemieux is the consensus best player in the game today, and last night he was blatantly victimized by this slash by the Rangers' Adam Graves that broke a bone in his left wrist. Graves was given only a 2-minute minor penalty, but the league is reviewing this tape and may do more. The Penguins obviously feel they better do something.
I think it'd be quite the joke if they don't do something. If it was, Messier, or if it was Gretzky, or any of those top players, I'm sure that something would be done. And I don't see any exception here with Mario.
Well, even if Graves is suspended, it hardly compensates for the Penguins losing Lemieux, who has proved once again in these playoffs he can dominate a game like nobody on the ice today. To Wrigley Field, where fun at the old ballpark includes comparing tan lines on the bleachers. The visiting Astros had a man on third when Pete Harnisch chopped one that Cubs third baseman Doug Strange tough hopped and fired home for Hector Villanueva to erase Casey Candel. To the 7th, Cubs ahead 6-4 with a man on for Ryan Sandberg, who gets into this pitch, yanks it on the line, into the wind, and out for his second 2-run blast of the day. Gee, I hope Ryan didn't block out the Rays for those fans in the bleachers. More importantly, it was the icing on the cake that powered the Cubs past the Astros. And speaking of icing, Karen McGinnis, do I believe my eyes, or is that snow I'm looking at the weather?
It certainly is. And believe it or not, Nick, we have a heavy snow warning. No, not in New England, not in the Northeast, not across the Great Lakes, but in the mountains of North Carolina. Mount Pisgah, a foot of snowfall overnight. Still a little bit of snowfall possible again this evening. And the same weather system that has produced the snowfall across the southern Appalachian mountain regions will be the same weather system that will possibly delay the launch of the Endeavour for tomorrow evening. An area of low pressure along with an accompanying frontal system. You can pretty much see where the comet-shaped clouds are across northern Georgia and Tennessee and across the Carolinas. Well, this same weather system's not going to be moving very far, very fast. It's rather stuck. It will move off the coast of the Carolinas, and this will produce the shower activity in through the Sunshine State. And this will also produce the potential for coastal flooding, places like North Carolina and Virginia. You may see some beach erosion there as well. We saw record high temperatures once again across the Pacific Northwest, and for Thursday afternoon, still going to be a little bit on the warm side in sections of Montana, but for the most part, the Pacific Northwest will cool down with temperatures in the 70s and the 80s. Still fairly nice, but just to give you some idea of the high temperatures we saw, Spokane, 89 degrees. That was a record high reading there. Pocatello, Idaho, incredibly warm at 87. Well, coming up for Thursday afternoon in Los Angeles, look for the reading there under partly cloudy skies to be about 77. Kansas City at 74. 69, so you warm up a little bit for Chicago. Dallas 79, but Norfolk, Virginia, wind gusts between 25 and 35 miles an hour, and the rain to boot. You could see several inches there with heavy downpours. For Alaska, Hawaii, and the Caribbean, and I'll mention one thing about Juneau, Alaska, and that is they have seen their fair share of precipitation, and the rain will continue once again. So we could see some pretty hefty rainfall totals. A high temperature in Juneau of 46 degrees. Partly cloudy, widely scattered showers across much of the Caribbean. Thursday, as we show you the weather sequence over the next day or so, there's that area of low pressure just kind of parked off the Carolina coast, still cold enough that, in fact, in the higher elevations, maybe down to around 4,000 feet in the southern Appalachians, some snowfall. Nation's midsection from North Dakota to Texas, you look terrific. We've got a little bit of a disturbance over the Four Corners region. Some of that moisture still coming up in a quasi-monsoonal flow. And then by Thursday afternoon, it's still going to be warm across much of the west, but cooler in the northwest with the movement or the passage of this frontal system in that region. And then by Friday morning, we'll take a look at the weather pattern then. The area of low pressure is still going to be stuck out over the coastal areas, throwing all that moisture back on shore. So it looks like it's going to take till the weekend for things to clear out. Now these forecasts coming up for these cities for Thursday. CNN's Prime News continues now with Susan Rook.
Karen, thank you. Well, still ahead on Prime News. A star that illuminated movie screens and stages worldwide has passed away. When we return, a look at the legendary career of Marlene Dietrich.
These gardeners have all won top honors at America's great fairs and garden shows. Here's what Miracle-Gro does for them.
Roses 8 inches across.
I grew a prize-winning dahlia 14 inches wide.
This is what Miracle-Gro does for me.
You'll never know what a great gardener you can be until you've used Miracle-Gro. Now the Miracle-Gro No Clog 2. It's 3 feeders in 1. It's a gentle feeder for delicate flowers, a wand feeder, a lawn feeder.
Well, we want to be together, but not too close together.
Yeah, she's never seen the beach. And she wants to see every mile of it.
For the way you travel today more than ever, the Smart Money is on budget. Now at Budget, get a Lincoln or minivan with unlimited mileage for just $199 per week. The Smart Money is on budget.
The Movado Museum Sports Edition watch. A tribute to the spirit it takes to play the game and win. The Sports Edition Museum Watch for men and women from Movado.
Pip Printing suggests that before choosing a printer for your company, you take a moment to check their references. These are just a few of ours. Pip Printing. Give us a call. We'll show you why we're the biggest business printer in the world.
A problem that's rarely talked about and believed by many to be totally non-existent, because this time the man is the victim. Battered men speak out. Tomorrow on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
What made actress Marlene Dietrich so alluring, so hypnotic to entire generations of moviegoers? Many remember her husky voice, those fiery eyes, a brash, independent spirit. The Berlin-born Dietrich died today in Paris at age 90, simply of old age, says her attorney. CNN's Dennis Michael has a look back at her stellar career.
It was that look, that voice,
what the boys in the back room will have.
And those legs that made Marlene Dietrich an international star. It began when Joseph von Sternberg cast her in the German movie The Blue Angel. Dietrich called von Sternberg her mentor and said he taught her everything she knew about filmmaking. The two soon moved from Berlin to Hollywood. There, Dietrich starred in the movie Morocco with a young Gary Cooper. Her character, Jolly, chose the life of a camp follower instead of marrying a rich man. Dietrich was always beautiful and desirable in her films, but strictly on her own terms. Many of the characters she played were a little on the shady side, but few were ever at a loss for words.
When you come to a fenced range, you always try to climb over?
I always see if the gate's open first.
But one way or another, though, you try. That was for trying. That was for trying too hard.
When Hitler came to power in the mid-1930s, he ordered Dietrich to return to her native Germany, but instead she became a U.S. citizen. During World War II, she entertained Allied troops on the front lines in Europe. She called those tours the most important work she'd ever done. Later, France awarded her the Legion of Honor. The United States gave her the Congressional Medal of Freedom. The Battlefront tours prepared Dietrich for the next phase of her career. With Burt Bacharach as her musical director, she began a highly successful career as a cabaret singer. Dietrich spent the last several decades of her life living very privately in Paris.
She's terrific.
That concludes Prime News in Washington. I'm Bernard Shaw. Good night, Susan.
Good night, Bernie. At CNN Center in Atlanta, I'm Susan Rook. Larry King Live is next. Larry, what's up?
Thanks, Susan. What's up is going to be a terrific hour, a full hour with former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger and your phone calls. Next on Larry King Live. Don't go away.
Coming up, Larry King Live, followed by World News after a word from your local cable system here on CNN.
Viewer's Choice presents Best Actor nominee Robin Williams.
I like New York in June.
Jeff Bridges.
If I could help him in some way, things would change for me.
And Best Supporting Actress Mercedes Ruehl.
You did a great thing for somebody tonight.
Wonderful and crazy. Truly a great movie. The Fisher King. It's magic. 3 great performances, 1 wonderful film. Order The Fisher King on Viewer's Choice.
Hello, I'm Glenda Gibbs, owner of Picture Frame Warehouse. Recently, a California manufacturer of picture frame molding needed to raise some quick cash. I bought these beautiful first quality moldings at a 30% discount.
Now we are passing these savings on to you while our supply lasts. This is a good time to save on custom picture framing.
3 locations: Sitco Drive at Harding Place, Myatt Drive at Gallatin Road in Rivergate, and White Bridge Road next to Rhodes Furniture.
Come to Jade Palace for the all-you-can-eat super deluxe Chinese buffet featuring fried rice, vegetable lo mein, house chicken wings, egg rolls, vegetable delight, green pepper steak, 5-flavor chicken, mugu gai pan, sesame chicken, and much more, prepared by a genuine Chinese chef. For dinner, choose from all those items, plus beef chow chow, sweet and sour shrimp, 4-season flavor seafood, and crab rangoons. Jade Palace is open for lunch 11 to 2:30 daily and opens for dinner each evening at 4:30. Jade Palace, 2719 Old Lebanon Road at Donaldson Plaza.
Hi, folks. This is Garth Brooks, the best in most country. Nashville 95, WSM.
Hi, this is Patty Loveless.
Hi, I'm Marty Stewart, the best in most country. Nashville,
Hi, everybody. I'm Vince
95,
Gill, the
WSM.
best in most country. Nashville 95, WSM FM.
Hi, folks. I'm Ricky Van Shelton.
Hi, this is George Jones.
Hi, this is Kathy Mateo, Nashville 95, WSM.
Hi, this is Ronnie Millsap.
Hi, this is Reba McEntire, the best in most country, Nashville 95, WSM FM.
This is CNN.